You've been told your whole life to save 6 months of expenses, park it in a savings account, and call it financial responsibility. But what if I told you that following that advice, to the letter, has already cost the average American household over $20,000 in real compounded walkaway wealth? Not a hypothetical, not a worst case scenario. The math exists, and nobody putting it in front of you. Until now. Welcome to Dollar Decoded. Picture this. It's 2019. Marcus is 28, living in Columbus, Ohio, doing everything right. He's got a stable job in logistics, no credit card debt, and $18,000 sitting in a savings account at his local bank. His coworkers called him the responsible one. His mom bragged about him at Thanksgiving, and for a while, Marcus believed it too. Then his buddy Devon, same age, same income, started investing in a low-cost S&P 500 index fund instead of hoarding cash. Devon kept maybe $3,000 in savings for real emergencies and put the rest to work. Fast forward to today, early 2026, Marcus's $18,000 has grown to about $23,000 in a high-yield savings account. Not bad, right? Except Devon's money, it's sitting at just over $45,000. Same starting point, same income, completely different outcomes, all because of one decision about where money lives. Marcus didn't lose his emergency fund. He lost an education on how money actually works, and that's exactly what we're decoding today. Let's start with the number nobody puts on a whiteboard for you: opportunity cost. Right now, the best high-yield savings accounts in America, Ally, Marcus, Discover, are paying around 3.3% APY. The national average? A shameful 0.39%. And if you're still banking with one of the big legacy banks, you might be getting 0.01%. That's not a return, that's a participation ribbon. Now layer in inflation. The Bureau of Labor Statistics reported January 2026 inflation at 2.4%. The Fed's own projections have us running between 2.5 and 2.6% through the rest of the year. So your safe 3.3% savings rate minus 2.5% inflation gives you a real return of roughly 0.8% before taxes. After your 22% federal bracket takes its cut, you're essentially treading water and calling it swimming. Here's where it gets visceral. Let's say you've got $18,000 in that savings account right now, close to what Marcus had. Over 10 years at 3.5%, you'd have roughly $25,400. That's what safe looks like. Now, put that same $18,000 into a low-cost S&P 500 index fund. Historically, that index has averaged about 10% annually over the long run. The S&P returned 25% in 2024 and nearly 18% in 2025. At a conservative 10%, your $18,000 becomes roughly $46,700 over a decade. That's a $21,000 gap. You didn't just miss out on gains, you missed out on more than your original deposit, twice. Now pause, because I know what you're thinking, but what if I lose my job tomorrow? That's a real fear, but keep watching, because the answer isn't what you've been told. The answer is actually smarter than a savings account. Here's the part of this conversation that makes financial advisors uncomfortable. Cash isn't the only safety net available to you. It might not even be the best one. Right now, there are credit cards offering 0% introductory APR for anywhere from 15 to 21 months. The US Bank Visa Platinum gives you 21 months of zero-interest financing, which means if your transmission blows out or you need a medical procedure, you can finance it over 20 months and pay zero in interest, while your invested money keeps compounding. That's not reckless, that's strategic. But here's the safety net almost nobody is using: disability insurance. The Social Security Administration's own data says 1 in 4 people in their 20s will experience a disability before they retire. And here's the part that will reframe how you think about this. Nearly 90% of those disabilities come from illness, not accidents. We're not talking skydiving injuries, we're talking back problems, cancer diagnoses, mental health conditions, real life, real risk. A solid disability insurance policy costs somewhere between $40 and $125 per month. It replaces around 60% of your income. And if you're paying premiums with after-tax dollars, those benefits arrive tax-free, which makes that 60% feel more like 75 to 80% of your actual take-home pay. Your emergency fund runs dry in 3 to 6 months. Disability insurance keeps paying for years. For roughly $50 a month, you get coverage that no savings account can match. Now, and I need to say this clearly, this is not a license to be reckless with credit. The average credit card APR in America right now sits at 21%. If you don't pay off that 0% promo card before the window closes, you will get crushed. This is a strategy for disciplined people. Power tools are incredible until they're not. Use them like one. The framework is simple. Keep $3,000 to $5,000 liquid for true emergencies. Use credit as a calculated bridge. Use insurance as long-term armor. And invest the rest. Let's talk about the silent thief that's been picking your pocket while you weren't looking. We all lived through June 2022, 9.1% inflation, the worst spike in 4 decades. Prices on groceries, rent, gas, everything reset to a new, higher baseline. And here's the part that doesn't get enough airtime. Inflation doesn't reverse itself. Those prices didn't come back down when inflation cooled to 2.4%. The damage was already done. The floor moved up permanently. Now, consider this. If you had $15,000 in an emergency fund in January 2022 and earned 4% interest every single year since, which honestly almost nobody was doing, you'd have around $18,200 today. Sounds like growth, but core goods and services are roughly 20% more expensive now than they were in early 2022. Your dollars multiplied, but your purchasing power barely moved. You're on a treadmill, running hard, going nowhere. And the Congressional Budget Office has already told us what's coming. They project inflation won't return to the Fed's 2% target until somewhere between 2028 and 2030, partly due to tariff policy, partly due to fiscal spending. 2 to 4 more years of slow erosion. So what do? You stop fighting inflation with tools that weren't built to beat it. Treasury inflation-protected securities, TIPS, are currently yielding 1.8% above inflation, guaranteed, backed by the U.S. government. Series I bonds are paying 4.03% right now, with a built-in inflation adjustment baked in, and you can buy up to $10,000 a year. These instruments exist specifically to solve the problem your savings account is quietly losing. They're not sexy, they don't go viral, but math doesn't care about your aesthetic preferences. Now, this is the one people don't want to hear, because it's not about numbers, it's about life. How many times have you hesitated to take a real swing at something? A certification, a course, a business idea, a trip that would have expanded who you are because you were terrified of touching your emergency fund, because some voice in your head said you weren't financially ready yet. Let me show you what that hesitation actually costs. Say you redirect just $2,500 from an oversized cash cushion into starting a side hustle. Nearly 40% of Americans already have one, according to LendingTree.com. The average side hustler in the U.S. earns close to $900 a month. That's nearly $11,000 a year in additional income from a $2,500 starting investment. And here's the part that changes the whole calculation. That second income stream is actually a better hedge against job loss than a savings account because it diversifies your income instead of just stockpiling cash that inflates away. Or take that same $2,500 and invest it at 8% annually. In 5 years, you've got roughly $3,670. In 10 years, $5,400. That's not the headline number, but multiply that logic across every year you redirect excess cash savings into growth assets, and that's the compounding architecture of wealth. And this isn't just a theory. Vanguard published research in 2023 tracking people over 10-year periods. They're finding people who built an all-cash emergency fund before investing had the lowest wealth outcomes of any group. The people who saved and invested simultaneously ended up with $17,000 more after a decade. Saving first didn't make them safer, it made them poorer. This is the segment I need you to really sit with. Traditional emergency fund advice, the 6 months no exceptions rule, assumes everyone is playing the same financial game with the same cards. They're not even close. According to the Federal Reserve's 2022 Survey of Consumer Finances, the median net worth of a white family in America is $285,000. For a black family, it's $44,000. For a Hispanic family, $61,000. Now, when you tell all three of those families to keep $10,000 in cash, you're not giving the same advice. You're giving advice that costs the second and third family a proportionally massive percentage of their entire net worth, sitting in a low-yield account earning almost nothing. And the numbers inside that gap are even more clarifying. The typical black family holds about $2,100 in liquid savings. The typical white family holds $12,000. When you tell a family with $2,100 in the bank to save 6 months of expenses before they invest a single dollar, you're not helping them build wealth. You're asking them to spend years stockpiling cash that depreciates while the gap widens. And that gap isn't shrinking. Between 2019 and 2022, the wealth gap between white and black families grew by $50,000, reaching $240,000, the largest ever recorded. Blanket financial advice, applied without context, doesn't just fail to close that gap, it can make it worse. There's also another layer of real risk that deserves direct acknowledgement. Black workers face unemployment at nearly double the rate of white workers, 7.2% versus 3.7%, according to January 2026 BLS data. That's not a statistic to minimize. That's a real structural risk that warrants real preparation. But preparation and hoarding are two different things, and that distinction is worth a lot. Here's what a smarter safety net looks like, built for real people with real constraints. Keep $3,000 to $5,000 in a high-yield savings account, not at Chase, not at your regional credit union paying 0.01%, but somewhere actually working for you. That's your true emergency buffer. Max your Roth IRA. In 2026, the contribution limit is $7,500. Here's what most people don't know. Every dollar you contribute, not gains, contributions, can be withdrawn at any time for any reason with no penalty and no taxes owed. Your Roth is simultaneously a retirement account and a liquid backup fund. It's doing two jobs. Get a 0% intro APR credit card and keep it in your back pocket as a bridge, not a lifestyle. Set it up before you need it. Look into disability insurance, especially if your employer doesn't offer it. $40 a month for income protection that lasts years is a better deal than 6 months of cash that's done in 6 months. And invest the rest. Low-cost, diversified index funds. Let compound interest work the way it was always supposed to work. For you. A Financial Planning Association study found that people who followed a framework like this ended up with 20% more wealth at retirement than people who kept everything in cash. 20%. Over a 30-year career, that's potentially hundreds of thousands of dollars, just from making a smarter decision about where your money sleeps at night. Before you close this video, do one thing. Pull up your savings account right now. Look at the balance and ask yourself honestly, is this number here because of math or because of fear? Because 59% of Americans can't cover a $1,000 emergency from savings today. The real problem for most people isn't that they're spending too much. It's that the system moves slowly while prices move fast, and the advice most people received was designed for a financial world that no longer exists. You don't have to play that game. If this breakdown hit differently, and you want to keep understanding money the way they never taught you in school, please like this video so it reaches the right audience and subscribe to Decoded. We decode the psychology, the systems, and the real mechanics behind wealth, so you stop reacting to your finances and start understanding them, one video at a time. See you in the next one.